Hello, my beautiful children. Welcome to another edition of the Differently Wired Show, Episode 7, The Autism Awakens. No, that was. Actually, no, that was what I originally wanted to call it, but then John was all like, oh, well, that's probably going to be too insensitive, so I had to admit it. Thanks, John. But, anyways,
You're welcome.
thank you. How's everybody doing today? I'm glad to see you all in the chat right there. Hold on, let me bring you guys up so I could say hello to you. Hi, Stranded. Hi, Project. Hello, Holobrine, Alex, Robert, Feldy, uh, 23Z to Tack. I don't know how to pronounce that. Sorry, Dogga. And Emerald Queen, Dotmo, Alex. Hello, welcome to all of you. I'm so glad to see you all here today. Before we get started with all the main stuff, I obviously have to introduce my co-host as always, guy that keeps the show going. I'm just the guy that makes the dumb jokes at the back of the audience. John Tucker.
Mm.
John, how are you doing today?
I am wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, how was your week?
Busy and productive. Happy week.
Yeah, same. I've been, in case you guys might notice during the stream, I'm feeling a little bit anxious. It's been a very productive and stressful week. I'm actually in the process of moving, so I've been on my toes and doing a whole lot. So trying to decompress and all that, trying to chill out with you guys. It might be a little bit of a struggle, but we'll make it through because I love you guys just so much. Before we get into the main topic, I just want to do the usual house cleaning, just reminding you guys that, hey, boom, we have a Facebook page. If you want to propose topics or engage in discussion or message us directly, make sure you go and like our Facebook page. If you want to get the link to that, it's in the description box below. And also, just a reminder, we also have a Discord server now. We're currently at 160 members. It's currently been a very, very positive response to the Discord server. Not just people, joining it, but obviously just the conversations that are happening within. People are being very supportive of each other. There have been a lot of great discussions, not necessarily around AS and mental health, but also just video games, movies, stuff that interests us. So if you want to be a part of this very supportive community, have a bunch of people to talk to that won't judge you for being differently wired, make sure you go join that. There's a link to that in the description box as well. That out of the way, let's get to our main topic of the day. This was suggested to me by John yesterday, whereas I normally come up with the main topics, but I figured this would be a very good one to talk about, especially considering, I just mentioned that I'm feeling a little bit anxious, and it's directly related to the main topic. More routine equals less anxiety. And John, I just have to ask, why did this topic in particular come to your mind instead of any other ones?
Well, what struck me about it is that I often see people who can't make clean cut decisions because not because they're dumb, just the opposite. Their brains go everywhere. And I was thinking, differently wireless, differently wired is also differently wireless.
Mhm.
Neurotypicals are kind of like folks who are plugged into the computer. They can, it's a direct line to the printer, the computer, to the box that runs everything, the monitor, and so forth. When you're wireless, you get signals from all over the place, other next door, down the road, hackers, whatever. So it's like I almost see a connection between people whose brains don't have any sort of anchor. They need something uh, to join them, to keep them focused. And in the world of everyday living, routine is what seems to do that. The folks that come to me in most trouble can't establish a routine. They get up at different times. They're not sure what to do when they get up. Should they get a job? Should they get a life? Should they get a wife? Should they not? There's a whole pile of overwhelming things. Now, of course, what happens very often is you'll say, "Will I do this? Will I do this? Well, no, I'll play a video game," and then you lose yourself in the video game or Netflix or whatever because you don't have a routine. What's the value of a routine? Routine is what helps you by not having to think about what to do next. Things become automated, muscle memory. You get up at a certain time, certain things happen, and you can almost do that blindfolded. Like imagine, if you will, driving home from work in your car over and over the same way. After a while, you don't have to think through all the moves. You kind of you're kind of on automatic. And this is what a routine does. It sort of gives your brain a holiday from all these messages that are overwhelming you. That's what made me think of that.
Yeah, that's actually a very good analogy about being in the car, because normally just the very thought of being in a car, getting stuck in traffic, driving to work, that can be particularly stress inducing for certain people, people like me. But after a while, if it becomes a part of your daily grind, those times that you're in the car, you find a way to adapt to it so that when you're driving home or driving to work, you don't really think about it. It's just a part of your day, and you don't really think about yourself being in the car or the stresses that come along with being in the car. You just do it, right? And it's the same thing when you actually get into a routine. I've been finding that a lot lately, what with the work that I've been doing with my YouTube channel, because it's becoming more and more a part of my life. The more subscribers that I get, the work that I do for it, I don't really pay attention to the stress that it causes me, which can be uh, a bad thing if you're being completely unconscious about it. But if you maintain a good balance, it actually can be a good thing. Where, like John said, it's like you're on autopilot. You don't think about all the work that you're doing or how it might stress you otherwise. You just go about doing it. You don't really think about it. Yeah, and in that sense, you become a whole lot more productive. Also, another thing I wanted to uh, just talk about, because you mentioned video games. Uh, a lot of times, obviously, I'm sure that you've seen in your practice, as I've seen with the people that I talk to directly online who have AS, video games are the ideal safe haven, right? And the reason why that is because when you don't have a routine, if you're not setting out your day so that you can be as productive as possible, there's a whole lot of chaotic potential that you don't want to have to deal with. When you don't have your day planned out, you start to think about, oh, well, maybe I should do this, or maybe I should do that, or maybe I'll be wasting too much time doing this, or maybe somebody will get mad if I don't do that. And oftentimes, when that's happened to me, I just find myself saying, screw it all. I don't want to have to deal with the amount of stress this causes my brain. And I just retreat into video games. And video games are particularly useful because they engage all of your senses. The touch of the gamepad, the visuals on the screen, the the sound and the music that might be playing in your headphones or through your speakers as you're playing them. And they're great. The problem is, because of the sense of accomplishment that comes along with playing video games, they can become quite addictive, and you might lose entire days just playing them. And I found that to be particularly the case the last, well, throughout my entire life, but especially the last couple months as my channel's been growing, I found myself enjoying video games less because I just realized as I'm trying to 100%, I don't know, Red Dead Redemption 2, which I actually did 100%. Just gonna pat myself on the back for that one, it's because it was particularly hard. But as I was doing it, I just found myself, hey, I'm not enjoying this. I'm wasting a lot of time. There's a lot of stuff that I need to get done. So, in response to that, what you need to do, as John said, is figure out how to set up a routine in a way that you can look at your schedule and realize, okay, if I stick to this, it's going to help me. Don't treat your routine as if it's going to be oppressive to your happiness or to just enjoying your life or leading a meaningful life. What I've done in the last couple months, as I've been trying to balance work life and YouTube life and moving to a new house, is that I plan out my day in a way that I can figure I could be most productive. And when I do that, I essentially, like I said before, I'm on autopilot. I just do it all. I don't think about it, and it causes me a whole lot less stress. Now, um, obviously, for each individual person, building up a routine, it's got to be specific to that particular individual. So, John, as you've encountered a whole bunch of different people with different personalities and different wirings in their brain, what are some strategies that you've used to sort of help people in this regard? What strategies have worked?
What is most likely to work is to not to try to do everything at once.
Right.
When people come to me and say they are students and they've gone to a learning strategist and the learning strategist has laid out their daily routine every 15 minutes or something, that's too overwhelming and it's kind of boring. So it doesn't work. So what we try to do is get the sleep and wake times nailed down.
Yes, yes.
That is a really big thing for some clients, especially if you're really into gaming a lot. It can, you can plan to go to bed at 10 and it's 4, So uh, getting to bed is kind of valuable, important. But I've been reading lately that getting up is actually a better driver. Aim for that because you can vary the amount of time you get to sleep to some extent. But if you want to nail one thing down, it's the time to get up.
Mhm,
Okay, what I often will work on with people in establishing a routine. Okay, why get up? What is there to look for? Is it the smell of coffee? What are we going to do to make your getting up kind of nice? So there's something in this routine that's inviting.
mhm.
And just getting up and doing whatever that thing is, the morning coffee or tea and buns or whatever sort of, I mean, it could be anything. It can vary. Some people, it's a run. Some people, they hop on a bike or calisthenics or something. But so it varies. But what you need to do is get up and head to something. And by the way, getting up at 4 p.m., that's never going to work. You kind of, like people getting up at 2, getting up at 4, getting up at 8 in the morning. So this, if you have a really wide range of times that you get up, then there is no routine that will ever work that I've
Yes.
seen. It's like if you can get up late, but you get up the same time late. Get up early, same time, and you get up in a certain pattern. Now that's part of it. The other part of it, what? Counterintuitively, it's really nice to schedule other good things in the day that you plan to do.
Mhm.
That would be nice things. Now you can build in the more heavy duty stuff around that once you get a kind of a rhythm going.
Yeah.
Um, the other part about routine when you're differently wired is that if you stay in the house all day, that tends to knock your routine apart. You kind of need to move. You have to have movement. It might be getting out. It might be, going down to the gym to work out. It might be whatever. But getting movement into your early routine is usually pretty good. So, because I like what you said about building up a routine, and that's of course what I've been talking about. It's not just a question of bang, a routine lands. Some people might work. I rarely see that work where you got a whole routine all mapped out, except in the case where you come to me and you got 6 courses and all your courses are already there. So then we have to build nice stuff around that class routine.
Yes. Exactly. Um, yeah, I want to just build upon one thing that you said there about how leaving the house is really important. Because when you're at home, your home is your safe space, for lack of a better term. Because all your food is there, all your entertainment is there. Whenever I've needed to get something done that's really important, whether it's related to school or related to YouTube, I always make sure that I tell myself, okay, what you're going to do tomorrow morning is you're going to eat breakfast, then you're going to get in the car and drive to the library, or where I currently live, I actually only have to walk to the library, but it gets pretty cold here in Canada. So sometimes I drive. And when I'm there, all your distractions are removed, and you figure, okay, well, I'm here. I might as well do something to be productive. And then when you're there, and I mean, maybe you're there, and if you're tempted to come home, you can tell your roommates or your parents or whoever you happen to live with, they won't let you back in the house until you come back at a certain hour if it needs to go that far. Hopefully, it doesn't need to go that far. But yeah, when I was at the library, I found myself able to get stuff done a whole lot easier. And one other thing, yeah, just I cannot stress how important it is to maintain a proper sleep schedule. Who was the American politician that was always emphasizing the importance of rising early and how that adds to health and wealth or some? I can't remember. Do you know what I'm talking about, John?
I thought Teddy Roosevelt did that.
Yeah.
There may have been other guys that did that. You kind of need to do it to get stuff done. If you're a president, you're kind of occupied. So getting up early is pretty common, I think, American president.
Yeah. He also he also said that what was it, like a chicken in every pot and a stick in every hand. I I
Oh,
don't know. I don't know. Sometimes the presidents can be kind of loony, as we've seen in recent decades. But, anyways, yeah, the sleep schedules. Obviously, when you maintain, like, the thing that you're going to be most slavish to in your life is your sleep cycle, right? I mean, you could be slavish to playing video games or slavish to eating a lot of food, but the one thing that you can ameliorate all those other problems. The one thing that you're always going to be slavish to is your sleep. And once you set up a proper sleep cycle, once you this is could be the little thing that you start with. Instead of waking up at 3, you can wake up at 2. And then once you got that down, then you can wake up at 1. If it needs to be that incremental, just do that. And then once you start waking up at an ideal time, whether it's 8 or 9 or 10 in the morning, 10 might be a little bit late. 8 or 9 is kind of ideal, at least for me. Then you can start building up a proper routine around that. It's going to be difficult at first, so like John said, you're not going to have everything right away, but figure out what works for you, what certain tasks give you comfort, and which ones are a little bit more stressful than they need to be, and then everything will start to fall into place. Make records of it. Make sure you keep a journal. Make sure you uh, update things as you go along, and then eventually, after you build up enough of a habit, God, I'm starting to sound like Oprah, but you get the point. After you build up enough of a habit, you stop thinking about it, right?
That's when routine really works.
Yeah, exactly. And look, it's going to be you're not going to be able to overcome the anxiety that comes along with routine changes, because as much as you try to foolproof your routine, there's going to be times where your routine breaks and it causes you a bit of anxiety. Like, for example, when I said at the beginning of the show that I was feeling kind of anxious, one of the reasons why is because the fact that my family and I are moving to a new house, it's kind of disrupting certain things that I would expect to happen at certain times. So, for example, when our family normally eats together, we eat together at 6 p.m. However, because my sister and my mother are at the new house unloading stuff, we're going to have to wait until 8. And because of that, it causes a whole bunch of different chemical reactions in my body where I start to feel hungry and I start to feel anxious. Oh God, if I eat at 8 o'clock, how late is it going to keep me up in bed, not being able to sleep tonight? And stuff like that, it just plagues my mind all at once. So there's stuff like that is going to happen. But still, just don't let it deter you from trying to build a routine that can help you stick to it despite these disruptions. Because despite the fact that I'm going to be eating later tomorrow, I'm going to be working on more video stuff for you guys, as well as moving to my new place. Um, yeah, John, anything else you wanted to add to this main topic before we get to the
Yeah,
mailbag?
well, it's neat that what you've done is demonstrate the need for acknowledging the thing that's bugging you. So if you are under stress and you try to ignore that stressful item, it will gnaw away at your toes and your belly, and it will stop you because you haven't acknowledged what it is. But when you name it, you take away some of its power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
So that you've just demonstrated how that can actually work to get you through something that's tormenting the back of your brain.
yeah. Exactly. Before we move on to the mailbag segment, I just want to encourage everybody that's listening to the show live or listening to the pre recorded show afterwards. If you have tips or tricks that you follow that help you stick to a routine, or if you have stories about, or success stories or horror stories, if you want to share them regarding how changes in your routine can cause you or anxiety or cause you to mitigate your anxiety, please share them in the comment section below. I'm sure the people that have been commenting in the comment sections, I've noticed, have been helping each other out a whole lot. If somebody leaves a depressing story, people will respond with things that help. And if people leave a positive story, people say, hey, I'm going to try and emulate what you did, see if it works best for me. But a very supportive community so far, and I hope to continue to build it. All right, with that out of the way, let me just bring up my little graphic here. So we've now arrived at the mailbag segment of the show, and I just want to remind you guys, if you want to have your questions answered on the show, there's 2 ways that you can do it. First of all, if you want to be a part of the mailbag section specifically, make sure to use the email address that you see on screen right now, maxderrat@yahoo.ca. We've been staying on top of questions pretty sufficiently. I'm very proud of myself for that. And also, if you want to be or have your questions answered live during the stream, make sure you use the hashtag that you see on screen right now, which is hashtag differently wired. Or if you want to ensure that your question gets answered during this particular live show, make sure you use the super chat function. And as I bring that up, I just reminded myself that, hey, I actually have a couple of super chats that I forgot to read off from last week. So first of all, I just want to say thank you to Point Curation, who sent in $2 and said, "Just caught this good series." Thank you very much, Point Curation. Jeremy Comfort, I'm going to do that every time I read somebody's name who's Jeremy. He sends in $1, no comment. Thank you very much for that, Jeremy. And Jimmy 1985 sends in $5 and he said, "Caught this show at the end, but as an engineer, I want to say that a lot of traits are in my peer group. Nothing wrong with that." Yeah, I find that when it comes to people who are engineers, you tend to see a lot of people that are on the spectrum because the fact of the matter is people that tend to be high functioning autistic, they tend to have above average intelligence, and engineering fields tend to require people like that. So I'm sure that there's a lot more acceptance in those particular communities, and I'm glad to see that you're spreading that love around there, Jimmy. Anyways, let's move on. Oh, one other thing before we get into the mailbag questions, I just want to remind you guys that last week we introduced a new segment where we'll be actually talking to people live on the stream, voice to voice. So if you want to be a part of the call-in segment, make sure that you join our Discord server. Remember, like I said at the beginning of the episode, the link to the Discord server is in the description box below. And once you join the Discord server, you'll see a text channel on the left-hand side that says call-in sign up. And make sure to sign up for the call-in segment before each show, and we'll try to get you on so that we can talk to you directly. With that out of the way, let's get on to the actual mailbag questions. And the first mailbag question comes to us from Annette. And Annette writes, "Hello, Max." Hello, Annette. "I've been struggling my whole life, barely had any friends, and was pretty much the weird girl of any of my schools. For a long time, I hated the sentence, 'Maybe it's not them, but you.' Ugh. Whenever I poured my heart out to someone, it really made me feel like I shouldn't be. And the worst thing about it was that no one ever told me what exactly they meant. I started to do research on mental health a few years ago. I ate up everything that I could find and I could process. I have slight struggles with processing information in written form. And then I found your videos and it kind of felt right. Everything you mentioned brought back memories of several situations that I'm still ashamed of. My meltdown at a doctor's office because I wasn't prepared to pay for certain things. The fact that I'm unnerved when someone changes something in my routine or something happens that is out of my control. My troubles keeping friends because of my bluntness or because I behave weird. When I dove deeper in the world of autism spectrum disorder, I found a talk from a daughter of someone on the spectrum. She talked about how her mother struggled in school, how she mostly kept to herself, and how she takes more and more time for herself now. It hit me so hard that I began to cry. Because it really felt like she was telling my story and also my future, I was in denial and looked for evidence that I can't be autistic. But the more I looked, the more I found girls and women, who were so similar to me or lectures that were eerily accurate. My next goal is to get back into some kind of medical treatment because I haven't seen a general practitioner in years. I do not know if I can find someone within my reach that can diagnose for autism spectrum disorder in an adult woman. But it shouldn't be too hard for me because I even failed at typical masking. Do you have any advice on coping with anxiety because I have to find me a new general practitioner, and can you help me what I should ask for about a diagnosis without overwhelming this new general practitioner? Because I know that I'm not going to talk around the subject if I find the courage to. John, I'm just going to pass this off to you quickly as I just get a sip of water.
Of course. What first strikes me is that every time people go to GP's offices, there is a bit of white coat anxiety. It causes a rise in blood pressure. It causes you to forget some of the things you wanted to say. So, something that I learned a long time ago is to make a grocery list. Now, the grocery list isn't a grocery list, it is a list of things you want to make mention of. You can make two copies. You give one to your GP. And now this person has you in front of them to talk to, and they also have a note of the thing you want to say. So I would take that to the GP and say, I'm concerned that I might have ASD. Can you help with that? And then they have chance to process this a little better because It's there in front of them. Also, with with the list, the shopping, the grocery list of issues you want to address, um, you won't forget stuff because you will have had a chance to plan it. So that will mean if you're tongue tied, here's my list. These are the things I want to talk about. And you look at the list too. You've got it. The GP has got it. Uh, Now, there are some GPs or some offices who say uh, you have to bring one complaint at a time. Don't go there. If
Yeah,
the
don't
receptionist
bother.
at the office, don't go there because they're not in the business for the right reasons. I don't think. I'm sorry if you're listed in your GP who does that, but I really think that's a terrible thing to do, to send someone away with a broken toe because you were doing noses today or something. You
Yeah.
know. Uh, so I would say you give that list to all the GPs I've ever met. They'll take that list and they'll slip it in your file, and then they'll deal with the things that you brought up. So I think that's the very simple way of reducing anxiety and getting the point across and enhancing that conversation flow with the new GP.
Yeah, and it might sound like socially awkward, but if you think about it, it's just a whole lot more efficient. Doctors are bogged down with lots of patients, and if you could just write this down, it'll help you a whole lot faster. Uh,
Yep.
I just got a flashback in my head about Jerry Maguire. Help me, help you. Help me help you. And then, yeah, Cuba Gooding Jr. In his towel.
Mm.
Anyways, that was a weird place for my mind to go. Hopefully that works out for you, Annette. And feel free to write back at any time if you have any questions regarding finding a general practitioner. Next question comes to us from Zachary. And Zachary writes, "Hi, Max. My name is Zachary." I don't know why that made me laugh. "My name is Zachary, and I found your videos relatively recently. I'm a senior in high school, and to be honest, I love learning and lead discussion and debate more than most students. Same here, man. I especially love politics and philosophical ideas, as well as psychology. Sometimes I'm complimented for my intelligence, but I am sometimes under the odd misapprehension that people are just complimenting me as pity, though I have told almost no one about my diagnosis. I think it is based in a fear of being babied or having my hand held and being talked down to. I always hated special needs classes when I was in elementary school, and I hated accommodations. Have you ever had a similar paranoia in public settings? Why is an Asperger's, this is a second question that he asks, why isn't Asperger's a diagnosis anymore? I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome like you. I go to a therapist often for other issues, but I learned a few years ago that the official term of Asperger's isn't an actual diagnosis anymore. I also found out that high functioning and low functioning are too relative to be used as a form of diagnosis. So why are all people with I have this fly flying in front of my face. So why are all people with autism diagnosed as autism spectrum disorder and not particular camps based on how progressive or regressive the person is when they compare to the average worker or student? And then he asks a follow-up question. How are epilepsy and autism linked? I've heard about 1/3 or so of autistic people suffer from epilepsy. Is it all based on the phenomena of sensory overload? If so, can any surgeries be performed? What I mean is that some forms of epilepsy can be fixed via surgery, so if the epilepsy be cured or lessened, can the type of autism that person have also be affected? Keep making fun videos, Max. You are a unique creator and you kick ass. No, you kick ass, Zachary. You kick ass because you listen to my show. Thank you. First of all, okay, so there are three questions. The first one was I'm going to murder this fly, man. He asked about what was the first thing that he asked about? A hard.
The odd misapprehension.
Oh no, it was the a hard time in public spaces. Have you ever had a similar paranoia in public settings? Yeah. So what he was talking about was how sometimes he would receive compliments from people and he wouldn't really actually believe what they were saying because he figured that the compliments come from a place of pity rather than as a genuine surveying of one's personal talents. In response to that, yeah, I feel that all the time. I often feel like because the main compliment that I get, if I ever get a compliment from somebody, is people often say that I'm a very articulate person. And I figure that I have a hard time accepting that compliment because sometimes I just feel like because people with AS tend to speak very succinctly and to the point and knowledgeably about certain subjects, that's just the go to thing that people say. Whereas in regards to anything else about you, whether it's your physical appearance or your humor. They won't address that because you think to yourself you don't have any of those things, and it kind of supplants altogether, and you start to feel worthless about yourself. So yeah, I understand where you're coming from in regards to that. And also, like whenever I talk to somebody, I always worry to myself afterwards. Oh, did I make my quirks seem obvious? If I did, are they going to accept me? I understand that it's something that you eventually come to develop a tolerance to. It's just a part. It's the nature of the beast, having AS. But look, oftentimes what you have to realize is that if people are actually going to treat you that way, they're just going to offer you compliments out of pity, then you don't have to be around those people. There are other people out there that will cherish you not because, well, they will view you not as somebody with Asperger's, but as somebody who is a unique individual with hopes and dreams and aspirations. And those are the people you should hang around. Um, what was the second one? Let me bring it up quickly. Sorry, dude. This just give us a second as we're figuring this out. Uh, oh yeah, the spectrum thing. We've addressed this before, but we'll address it again because this is a common question that we receive. The reason why it's not called Asperger syndrome anymore is because there's logic behind it. When you say Asperger syndrome, people expect that anybody who has the diagnosis Asperger syndrome necessarily has all the typical symptoms that come along with it. So if you have Asperger syndrome, that automatically means you don't get sarcasm, supposedly. But that's not true. I have Asperger syndrome and I tend to get sarcasm. Now, if you treat autism as if it's on a spectrum, then you start to realize, hey, there are people that might be on the spectrum, but they might have certain symptoms and they might not have others. And depending on how many symptoms you have, you might be high functioning or low functioning. Now, there's a bit of a problem there, which I understand, is that if you refer to yourself as being a high functioning autistic, some people might have a hard time picturing what that means in their brain. Whereas if you say you have Asperger syndrome, then people tend to get it a whole lot quicker. That's why I call my particular series The Truth About Asperger's Syndrome and not The Truth About High Functioning Autism, because it's just pragmatic. That's why I do it. Now, as for the epilepsy question, I don't know how to answer this because I'm not a medical professional. John, do you have any insight on this or any of the other things I discussed?
I I have comments on each of the things. The one about pity is you and Zachary are sensitive, and you share uh, great insights, and you're both very articulate. So chances are good that the default is that when you speak to people, they will be impressed and not be complimentary because of pity. However, your sensitivity will make you feel that, so you read more into it. So I'm suggesting a better default is to accept what people are saying as what they mean. It takes a lot of work, and it takes work to accept a compliment because of the way you can judge yourself. But Zachary is obviously bright and articulate and capable of great thought and organization. And Max, you clearly are bright and articulate. So you kind of got to learn to get used to being the person that they say you are. And so it's kind of a safer thing to say, thank you for the compliment, and then go on like that. There may be people who are judging you and being pitying, but I don't think that's what's happening. I think 9 times out of 10, people just appreciate the way you're doing it. What you said about the Asperger's syndrome, I have no comment about except to say you're never going to kill that word. Whatever the diagnostic statistical manual does, and it's logical, people are Aspies will probably identify that way because it's easier, it's pragmatic, and it's easier. The epilepsy and autism, I'm not a medical profession, but it caught my attention. So I rooted around and I located the Epilepsy Foundation. This is a crowd that are um, headquartered in Maryland, and they have on their website of the Epilepsy Foundation, they draw connections and they answer some of the stuff about epilepsy and autism, saying the likelihood of those things affecting one another are slightly higher. However, there's no mention of any kind of surgery. So I'm kind of leery about thinking of surgery, in this way. But I would definitely look at the Epilepsy Foundation because several of those sub questions are answered there on that website.
Hmm. And as far as getting surgery to cure autism, as far as things are right now in the medical field, we can't cure autism. Um, I mean, who knows? One day there can be some sort of procedure where you can rewire a brain, but at the moment that's not possible. Before we have two other questions ahead of us, but we're just going to have to answer one because we want to get to the call-in guests. So we're just going to take this very quick one from Anonymous. Hey Max, it's Anonymous again. Lol. Lol stands for laugh out loud, in case you didn't know. Jokes aside, do you guys know of if any research has been done into traumatic brain injury and its effect on in regards to autism? I was wondering because of what happened to me on February 17th, 2018. Since then, I have noticed a higher sensitivity than before to things like the sound of a busy grocery store, lightweight clothing, to things being out of order, and a memory that was bad. Now a joke. What was I saying? I forget. Ha ha ha, I get it. Ah. Now, actually, to be honest, too, when I first read your email, I actually did laugh. It's just hard to fake a laugh when you read it for the second or third time. You know what I mean? But just to quickly answer this, there seems to be some sort of overlap between traumatic brain injury and autism. Before we did this episode, I actually did a cursory Google search, and I found a study. You can look this up yourself. It's called Pediatric Traumatic Brain Injury and Autism, Elucidating Shared Mechanisms. Now, apparently, both traumatic brain injury and autism share similar symptoms, but also similar biologic mechanisms that cause both. Some symptoms include gastrointestinal problems, which I know you don't have, learning difficulties, but also, as you just mentioned, Anonymous, sensory processing disruption. So, if we approach this on the basis of reason, if autism is related to the wiring of a brain, if you go through some form of brain trauma, obviously that's going to affect the way that your brain works. Now, I can't really say if traumatic brain injury rewires a brain, but I can envision a scenario where your brain is affected to a point where you produce symptoms that are on par with autism. Now, does that make what you have autism? I can't say that. I would imagine autism is something that your brain develops over time, and it is not necessarily related to undesirable causes. But I can say, I suppose, that if you go through this, you tend to have similar symptoms. John, anything you want to add to this?
Yeah, I attended the Traumatic Brain Injury Conference for several years, and a lot of coming up in various sessions, which were autistic or ADHD like. So you're exactly right in your implication that when your brain is rewired, you'll have symptoms that cut across various spectra. So you may not have autism, but you can have different wiring, which is like that. So you can learn from the literature of either organization. So everybody's a little different. So you'll have to carve it for yourself with the health professionals that you use. But yes, there is definitely a connection. And traumatic brain injury is one of the sources of ADHD that's noted in the literature.
Okay. With that out of the way, thank you very much for sending that into us, Anonymous. Now we're finally going to get to the call in segment of the show. And let me just unmute the two people that we have in our call right now, because what we do is we bring people into the call before we start, and then we mute them until the segment comes on. And they've been waiting very patiently, and they are unmuted. Guys, please give a very warm welcome to Eli and Max Dankley.
Hi, I'm Max Dankley. Hi.
Just let us know if you guys can hear them okay in the chat. I'm going to do my best to pay attention to that. Actually, you know what? Just to make it easier for myself, I am just going to bring up the YouTube chat on my screen. So, hello, Eli and Max. First question, just to break the ice. Max Dankley, did you, is somehow in response to my name, or did you come up with that?
That name I came up with a while back. So
Oh,
there was
okay.
this he's called Max Crumbly. I thought it would be funny just to put this name Max. and then the last part I replaced Crumbly with Dankly, and name stuck for the next 3 years.
It's a cool name. I
It
can't
is.
I can't say that people won't try to ask you like, hey, why are you a Max Derrat server and calling yourself Max Dankley? Are you like a mega fan? Which you can be, you could tell me off there. Anyways, I just
I
wanted to
know,
ask. Yep,
I know another YouTuber, Max, and his Max. Yeah, I forgot his Mama Max. There.
Mama
Mhm.
Max,
Yes.
Mama like comma chameleon Max. Anyways,
Ah.
haha. All right, Culture Club. That's Boy George, right? Yeah. Anyways, so welcome to the Differently Wired show, guys. Was there anything that either you wanted to talk about in particular?
Oh,
Well,
okay. I'll
oh,
begin with
sorry.
you. I'll begin with you.
Um, so I'm autistic, and I noticed, talking about getting into routines. Well, one thing that I found really helpful, get into a volunteer somewhere.
Mm.
It's really helpful if you volunteer somewhere. I will tell you, if you don't go, you will feel bad, and that sounds weird. But if you
Be-
don't go, you know, it's like you feel bad, and so when you start to go, you'll get yourself into a very helpful. It's what I did, which it helps me a lot. I was getting up. I get up 6 in the morning every. I go to bed every night around generally around 9 or 10. It's a lot. You don't necessarily have to get up that early, but doing one thing out of the week where you have a set time and set things to do really helps with just everything.
And speaking of that you have to do it yourself, and where I live, you have to have around 100 hours of service hours. So basically, you go out into the community and help out. And they can't. It has to be non-profit too.
Hmm.
And
Just oh, sorry to interrupt, guys. Apparently, both Eli and Max are coming in just a little bit quiet. Do you guys know how to increase the input on your mic?
let me see.
If you
Let me
don't,
check.
um, if
Where-
you if you don't, all you have to do is just go into the bottom left, hit that gear icon, go into voice and video, and then just adjust your input volume. Hopefully, that'll work
Oh,
okay.
let me tell you something. For the input volume, I have my Discord ping. I have a lot of Discord, and my pings are non-stop. And the one just came up right now. The third one came up right now. But if I put the mic volume any higher, you're gonna hear that pings.
Okay. So just okay, Max. If you could just when you talk, just get up right close to your mic and speak.
This is good.
Yeah,
This
not that loud, but yeah, just hopefully we'll find a way to make this work okay, so that people aren't having their ears blown out. Um,
all right.
yes,
Should be good.
yeah. So I just wanted to build upon what Eli was just saying. Yeah, volunteer work is actually a really good option that I would highly recommend. Because it's a good way of sort of getting you into just like the workforce in general. If you start off with volunteer work, it looks great on a resume. You can do it for a long time, and showing that you can commit to something without being paid for a long time is great look for a great look to employers.
And colleges.
And colleges, yeah, absolutely. And once you start doing that, it's a safe way of being able to build up a routine for yourself, so that when you actually take on a job and build up more responsibility and you start to get paid to do the work that you're doing, it's not as daunting a responsibility to take on. I'm sure that that's what you found when you've been doing it,
Yeah.
Eli. What exactly did you do in terms of volunteer work, if you don't mind sharing?
So, I helped out at a therapeutic writing place, which actually is what led me to my career. Well, I'm getting into my career, but I fell in love with horses. It became my special interest, and I didn't let it go. Um, I had started volunteering there. I really loved the horses. I started riding, and it just became a huge passion. And now I'm training horses. doing all this amazing stuff with them, and it's it's just it was amazing for me, which is why I really would suggest volunteer work, because it kind of holds a special place in my heart, because it really got me to get off my butt and start to do things. And it really, 3 years later, I'm working with horses, I'm making it myself, and I'm trying to get a job in this industry. So, it was just really.
Interesting.
Excellent stuff.
So, speaking on my side of the story about routines, I haven't really found myself getting into much routines. In fact, I'm complete. This is a YouTube, so I won't curse, but I'm not good at commitments. There,
Mm.
not the best at it. I basically the only commitment I have every day is basically get up at 6 in the morning, take an Uber. My dad takes me to school, and then just go on from there all the way to 2:45. Wait half an hour for my grandma to pick up, then come home and then just sit down and do what I usually do right now, which is normally be playing computers. However, right now we're on a Discord doing calls.
Yeah, dude, your Discord is going ham. You sound pretty popular.
No, I'm not. It's at everyone's an at here.
Oh, okay, wow. Quick question though. How, if you don't mind sharing, how old are you?
I'm 16.
Oh, you're 6. Okay, so you're still in school. So, yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about the. I mean, like you already have your routine set up. Basically, that's the great thing about being it's like 18 or younger. It's that the main thing that you just have to worry about is school, right? And as long as you're taking care of that and you're getting good grades and
No one really cares about what I do, as long as I'm not doing following the rules. No one really cares about what I do. No.
right. Okay, as long as you're sticking to making sure that you have the grades that you need, so that when the time comes for you to get a job or go to university or whatever, that path is laid open for you, and then you can start to take on the responsibilities of setting up a
Wow.
routine and all that.
Well, I kind of messed that up during freshman year because I didn't really find myself doing homework. I thought it was very tedious, and even now I find it still tedious. Even now that I'm still doing it, the only way I circumvented this was basically I do my homework at school rather than their intended places of work, which is at home.
Oh, dude,
Because
yeah.
at home, I'm over here wanting to do whatever I want to. At school, I just gotta I can just work out, and since I don't have a computer with me and all that. Now, there's also another distraction at the school too, since the school allows for the use of iPads. In fact, it encourages the use of iPads, and
Ooh.
we're given iPads, and the internet is for the most part unrestricted.
Oh, that's not good.
But for the most part, I've been on top of my homework, thankfully. But again, I do find myself doing stuff, messing around with the iPad and all that. Again, I still do well at school. My geometry class, especially, it's been getting a little bit tougher. But
Mhm.
yeah,
Well, well, I totally sympathize with you when it comes to doing your homework at school. I used to do the exact same thing and feeling that it was tedious. Do you find that it's tedious because you find that you actually have a decent time understanding everything, so you don't really feel the need to do it,
yeah.
or is it just tedious because it's homework? Nobody likes homework.
I believe that's the reason too. Because at school, because here's my philosophy: everything that you get work. That's work related should stay at work, not be transferred to home,
Yeah,
unless exceptions or it's a project.
it's kind of like it's kind of like how some people can be so OCD that if the peas touch your mashed potatoes, then it sends your brain into haywire. Well, there's
Holy hell! Oh my God! Speaking of food, holy hell! You don't know. I don't eat peas, but basically any weird sauce that touches my food, I'm like, hell no! I'm not touching that food anymore.
yeah.
I'm the same way.
Oh yeah. Like what is it for you?
Whenever food touches each other, no matter what it is, if it touches each other, I can't eat it. Like I can't.
Yeah, it's just you have to eat it in a certain way, otherwise it just throws your entire enjoyment of the meal out of whack. like I'm sort of weird in a way. Like whenever I eat like I don't know, McDonald's for example, I always whoa I
Oh, sorry.
it's okay. I always have to make sure that I finish the fries before I had to finish the majority of my fries before I even take a bite of my hamburger. If I don't do that, then 50% of the enjoyment of my meal is completely out the door. It's the same thing with other meals, but it's just you find certain ways where you can enjoy something to the fullest, and if something compromises that, then it it throws everything out of whack. Sorry, it's just I don't know, Max Dankley, how you can be autistic and tolerate that constant Discord noise in the background.
Oh, oh yeah, that's one thing I know. I kind of noticed since I was theorized. I'm not sure how it worked. My mom knew that I had Asperger's, but basically one of the things that I don't get affected by is no loud noises and all that.
Okay.
That's when it's again I learned that Asperger's affect people differently, and I guess that's one of
Hmm.
the aspects that I can handle all the noises in my background. And I'm very sorry for anyone listening to this about my Discord noises. In fact, actually, I think a better idea would be to turn on streamer mode. That'll help out a lot. There you go.
What's that?
Streamer mode basically is when in Discord basically shuts off all sounds coming from Discord except for voice chat.
Oh, really? See, this is how technologically incompetent I am. See, I want to give a shout out to, I don't know if he's listening right now, but his name in my Discord is Rickety Split. Rickety, you are the man. And thank you to you, especially because you've been helping me figure out all the technical aspects of Discord so that my the people that are in my server don't completely lose their minds over my unprofessionalism. So, and thank you to you, Max Dankley, for pointing that out to me so I can sort that out for the next episode.
And someone just mentioned that you can also turn on Do Not Disturb mode on your Discord profile.
Oh, so just by turning that on, it automatically mutes the sounds?
Yeah, I believe so. I missed the name. Yeah, his name is Masked Figure who mentioned that right now.
That's figure you're the man. Thanks so much for that. Okay, so we have a few minutes left in the show. Is there anything else you guys wanted to talk about before we conclude?
On the topic of food, I wanted to mention that my appetite, I'm not appetite, my diet is kind of the worst. I'm actually kind of scared to mention to anyone about my diet. Not
Hey,
like,
it's okay. When we were all 16, our diets were terrible, so don't worry about it, dude.
but it's not that. It's that I'm wary of my diet. I have one of the best metabolisms anyone could wish for.
Mm.
But the thing is that all I eat is a bunch of chicken and all that.
Well, you're getting
Chicken,
protein.
fries,
Yeah.
and like McDonald's food and all that.
Well, yeah.
I have braces on right now.
So, what I would suggest is trying to eat the fruits and vegetables along with the food. Like, just have an apple for a snack or something. And I've noticed that it really helps. I've cleaned up my diet in the past. I've cleaned up pretty much every part of me, except for, I mean, I'm still kind of a hot mess sometimes, but I'm trying. And um, I would eat, like a little bit of broccoli with my dinner, even if I had McDonald's, or I would have an apple for a snack, and it helps get some nutrients.
Yeah, just doing all that. Yeah, I understand the logic in that because whenever I've had McDonald's, for example, even though I enjoy it while I'm eating it, shortly after I feel kind of gross and lethargic and all that. But I also find that, hey, if I eat an apple or a yogurt like an hour or two after that, I suddenly feel a whole lot better. And it's just by maintaining that balance that you can save yourself from the problems that come along with inflammation or just general problems related to diet, like allergies and stuff like that. So yeah, a good suggestion there, Eli. Yeah, John, you sort of been quiet. I hope we're not talking over you, like, or interrupting you from saying stuff that you want to say.
Not at all. I've enjoyed listening to the wisdom of the. Isn't it interesting how everybody can offer something? And I had forgotten the whole business of volunteering. In the world of ADHD, Eli mentioned this first. In the world of ADHD, there's two things that motivate people to do stuff. One is being intensely interested, and the other is a sense of urgency. You can tap into the sense of urgency by what she has done, and that is to say, make a commitment that would make you feel bad if you broke it.
Mm.
Join
So
the
that
military.
won't work for everybody, but it absolutely works for her. The other thing I wanted to say is we've discovered interesting things about working with horses. It helps people's minds to work with horses. So much so that I've had this company chasing me to endorse them for this horse machine they've got that's specifically helping with ADHD. There's a company that sells this little box for $2,000 or something, and it bounces around like a horse because they've discovered it's good for your brain wire. So we know helping with horses helps you. It
Mm.
helps you emotionally, it helps you physically, and it moves stuff around. The lymph in your body moves around, and it's kind of like doing qigong where you bounce and bounce, and that kind of gives you a center. So bouncing on a horse is good for you in a lot of ways. And horses are wise. So horses are wise beings to be around. Great career choice, Eli.
Yeah. So one thing is like with horses, it's actually been that the trot helps a lot of actually like physically disabled people.
Yep.
Um, because of the movement, it actually mimics how the hips would move um when they're walking. And you know, I have a chronic illness, and I have struggled with kind of like walking properly almost. I tend to lean a little bit to the left, and kind of just walk a little bit funny. And riding horses has almost completely corrected it, because I had to stay balanced over the horse's back.
Yeah, it's a really good career choice. A lot of reasons.
I would. I find. Oh, I'm getting a bit of an echo. Um, I would be interested in horses. They seem like majestic, noble creatures. The only problem is that whenever I get close to one, I start to turn into the Thing because I'm highly allergic to them. And I don't mean the Thing from like John Carpenter's The Thing. I mean the Thing from Marvel, or I don't know, like one of the monsters from The Last of Us. That's how bad it is. But yeah, that's definitely. I can understand why somebody would get that type of a positive, what's the word, shot of adrenaline to their day. And also, just one last thing before this was making me crack up. Thankfully I had my mic muted while you guys were talking. The volunteer work and how the importance of it will keep you doing it because you're doing it for a good cause and doing it for people that might really need it. One good thing that you could really do is, how sometimes when you go to a grocery store and you pay for your stuff and they're like, hey, you want to donate $1 to so and so charity? Well, that's one, because if you take up a job like that, it can be fun guilting people that don't want to donate that $1, right? Because at least in that sense, you're actually getting paid to do something, and you're also uh, annoying people that might otherwise not want to put in that extra dollar, and you're doing it for a good cause. I mean, that sounds like the perfect job for me. But because I like being a pain in the ass in that way, being a virtuous pain in the ass. That should be like my gamer tag or something. Virtuous pain in the ass.
DPA.
Hot.
Hot, yeah, hot pain in the ass. But yeah,
Uh,
yep.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I wanted to get into the topic of how I speak to everyone at my school, and almost 98% of the people I feel like are phonies. Well, at least capturing the right definition of phony, basically meaning someone is acting very fake or they're being disingenuous with you.
I shouldn't say this, but you're right. Because when you're in high school, that is the case. And the fact of the matter is, looking back on my experiences in high school, even though I tended to be sort of in your mindset where I cast everybody as fake, I sort of look back on who I was at that time and I'd sort of realize, yeah, I was sort of a bit of a tool. Um, just trying
Yeah,
to, yeah.
sorry to interrupt
No,
you.
no, go ahead, dude.
So basically at school, I'm very more extrovert, and outside of the classroom though, I'm very introverted. Basically, I basically plug my earbuds to either my iPad or my phone, listen to music or something, or watch something
Mhm.
on YouTube or whatever, and then not interact with people. However, in the classroom, it's a completely different story. I'm a lot more louder, let's say, not cautiously louder.
Mhm.
I say cautiously because I don't want to get in trouble with the teachers. and
Yeah, yep, go ahead.
And I also find myself talking a lot more with older people at the school. Not to see, yeah, older people and teachers at the school.
Yeah, I had a similar experience. I would never shut up when I was talking to adults because I felt like they could actually, really understand what I was saying, whereas people my own age, they just didn't get it. They didn't want to hear me talk about horses for 30 minutes, but, adults were like, "Wow, you're so passionate. Cool that you have,
Yeah,
your
kids.
career."
Oh, sorry, but
No, you're fine.
no, but kids in my I say kids, especially in my school because it's an all boys school. But the kids are like, "Oh, girls and cars," or something very luxurious. And me, some teachers call me a Spartan. The way I describe my lifestyle, a Spartan, in which I don't really require much, in which I can just get a computer, and you give me a very small condo, and I'd be set for life. Well, of course, I need a job, but that's a different story.
Dude, same. I'm exactly the same way. That's all I would need. Although I do intend to get married someday, and doing that,
Yeah.
you know,
Speak. Oh yeah. Speaking of marriage and all that, I'm taking a debate class right now
that
to help me out with debate. However, I'm like, oh my god, I can't. I don't think I could do this. I
oh,
don't. Which is
debate class.
yeah, debate class.
Yeah, I thought you said Bay class for a second there. It's like there's a
The
Bay class.
Michael Bay class.
No, I mean like,
Explosion class.
hey man, I take that class too, but I mean Bay as in like, you know how millennials say it, BAE. It's like, okay, if there's a Bay class, I'm more than willing to attend that. John probably doesn't get that reference.
Not at all.
Okay, that's probably a good thing because then things might get immediately awkward.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I look. We have to close out the show in a second, but I just want to respond to what you were saying about debate class, dude. Stick with it, honestly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because what really helped me in high school, um, obviously I mentioned drama classes, but the best class that I ever took in school, in high school, was law. And what was great about that is I found that because like a lot of people who have AS, we like to investigate and take in as much information as we can when it comes to interesting topics. I found that when it came to presenting ideas in a debate format, I actually tended to do very well. Obviously, at the start, you're very nervous. Everybody's looking at you. You're all of a sudden very conscious of the words that are coming out of your mouth and the way that you arrange them. But if you stick with it, you'll be surprised how much better you can become at being in social situations. Whereas, if I hadn't done law or taken drama classes at this point in my life, if I were in any social situation, I might run away from every single one of them screaming. But at this moment, I find that I can actually survive and be well liked at certain social gatherings or at debate events. So, dude, please, if you have heavy interests like many people with AS, please stick with it because I think that you'll find that it really helps you out.
Yeah. Yeah, I had my first debate tournament a month back, and holy hell, I mean, it was awful for when I actually had to go in and debate the other group. It was a public forum debate, and the first one was that I actually had I think I had a breakdown. I'm not sure if it was just me having a tantrum or anything like that, but basically what happened was that we had a topic on should we end the arms deal with Saudi Arabia, and
Oh, yeah.
we had the we had the affirmative. However, my partner believed that hey, we had made an argument for the con, and so we walked in believing hey, we give up because we don't have an actual affirmative to fight this argument. However, I looked at the argument and listened to the other people's argument, and I'm here thinking we have the affirmative, and we would have won that. And then I'm like, oh god, and my head is like, oh my god, you got to be kidding me. I told him we had the affirmative, and I told the judge, which was another high school student, say, hey, could we go back and try to actually argue this? And he said it's too late. I already put it in. And I'm like, oh crap. So I kept my cool there. However, this little prick across the table who I was debating with said wah wah, and I really literally accelerated my iPad across the room and just shoved the desk over and just ditched the classroom. And I basically cried in the corner.
Wow, that's what he did. Sounds very unprofessional. That's something that you should
Hmm.
absolutely not do in a debate setting. The whole point is to put emphasis on the merit of somebody's ideas that they're presenting, not necessarily on tribalistic tendencies. Because when somebody goes wah wah, then that completely pollutes the entire discussion, and you completely lose sight of what you're doing in the first place. So,
Right,
yeah.
and nothing else happened to that. It's just that the security guard found me, and I had to talk with my debate guy. And everyone said this, like, you can't have these mental breakdowns anymore. It's like, how the hell am I supposed to stop having these mental breakdowns, my dude? It's something that's very hard to practice and something I don't see coming. I tried controlling it in there. I felt it coming, but it's like, okay, let's see if we can do this peacefully. But again, the guy said when.
Well, okay. Look, I understand why some people might be off put by though like the outbursts that somebody who has autism might make. But the fact of the matter is, the reason why you're reacting to these things is because the transgressions that other people are making in these types of formats, they shouldn't be happening. So, in respect to that, you can find a decent compromise with these people that are telling you, "Hey, you should stop melting down." Say, "Look, I can't do that, but look, if you just make sure that the rules are enforced when it comes to our debates, then this won't become a problem. Make sure that the whole point of being in a debate is that you're presenting as many arguments with it that have as much merit as possible, and remove any competitive vocally competitive element where somebody might laugh at you or point at you or make obscene gestures if they're trying to psych you out or something like that. And then when that happens, there's nothing to worry about for them or for you. All right.
Yeah, I would talk about that, talk more about that, about the breakdowns, but I'll finish with the debate story, and that'll probably be a story for another day.
Hey, dude. Look, we have to wrap up the show, but feel free to come back on at any time. You know, the sign up, like I said, is in the Discord server. So if you want to come
Sure.
back on and talk about how stuff is going with that, or something completely different, please come back anytime.
All
Eli,
right.
thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us your stories and the importance of volunteer work. That's actually a really important thing that I want to impart to people that might be having trouble starting a routine and they might be starting from scratch. Volunteer work is an absolutely fantastic place to start. Anyways, that'll do it for us. Ladies and gentlemen, for this episode of the Differently Wired show, I just want to remind you all before we sign out that if you have any questions that you want to see on the Differently Wired show, there are two ways, like I said before, that you can submit your questions. Make sure if you want them to be a part of the mailbag segment, submit them using the email that you see on screen right now, which is maxderrat@yahoo.ca. Or if you want to take a chance about having your question read live on the air, use the hashtag Differently Wired on Twitter. Unfortunately, we ran out of time, so we aren't able to take any Twitter questions. However, if you wanted to make sure that your question was answered during the show, the option that you would use is Super Chat. And even if somehow we miss it at the very end of the show, we'll make sure that we read them on the next show, as we did in the middle of today's episode. I want to thank John, as always, for doing the show with me. I couldn't do it without him. And I want to thank again Max Dankley and Eli for coming on and making this adding a new variant to this conversation, making it a lot more interesting. Do you guys have
Thank you.
anything you want to say before we sign off?
Uh, Nothing much. Is that. Oh crap! Someone you could hear that.
I don't know what he's saying. It's just a bunch of garble, but I heard somebody.
No, I'm playing squad. Basically, I'm about to hop on squad after this is done. But
All right.
uh, is that watch Fate Stay Night. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, same name as me, Max Stankley.
Okay. All right. Send a link to me through Discord, and I'll put it in the description box after the show. Eli, go ahead.
Thank you.
So I would just kind of like to say, if anybody's thinking about getting into horseback riding or whatever, you can actually like put maybe like my Discord in the description or something. People
Yeah.
can send me questions or whatever because I know a decent amount about horses, and I can help people figure out what style they want to ride, where they want to go, and that sort of thing. I'm a big advocate for riding horses because it really helped me.
I'm so glad that you found that medium where you derive a lot of meaning and expertise. And for you, it's horses. For me, it's Metal Gear Solid. I'm glad that you're being a whole lot more productive with your life, Eli.
Should I buy Metal Gear Solid? Should I?
Yes, yes. Everybody should play Metal Gear Solid and treat it
I
like a
got it on the
religion.
PS Vita. I got it.
Oh, good. You got the HD collection?
Yes, I got the HD
Oh,
collection.
you're a wise man. Make sure you
But I
play it.
deleted it because I deleted it because I needed space for Danganronpa.
Wow, you deleted Metal Gear. Well, I'll have to give you a lecture after the show. I'm kidding. But anyways, thanks so much, guys. We'll see you again next week. Thanks for joining us during the live show, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
Good night, good luck, and good night.
Bye bye.
Bye.